Nisachaya out there. Daily prayer is so long that sometimes I feel overwhelmed and give up. I want to keep every rabbinical law, but the intricacies are vast. I was taught that the rabbis make the rulings and heaven has to follow their rulings too. Is that a nusach thing? Anyone else been taught this?
I've heard people say it, but it's nonsense. God doesn't have to follow rabbinic law. First of all, the Talmud mentions the court making mistakes. So how can the Talmud mention in a tractate called Tractate Horayot? It talks about what the court has to do when it makes a mistake, i.e., what do the rabbis have to do when they make a mistake? They have to bring a certain korban, depending on how many people violated. So this shows that if they can make a mistake, God is not subject to their decisions or bad decisions or any of their decisions. The court is for us. It's not for God. Now, to say that the court has no authority means that you're trying to disrupt religion and order, and that's what God's against. Because even in exile, by us to be redeemed as a people, there has to be a consensus on how we keep these laws. The Jewish people would never be redeemed if they kept laws like Karaites. And don't be fooled, even the Karaites have their own oral law. It's called the Sevel HaYerusha, the yoke of inheritance. It's pretty much a book, how they keep Torah law, a consensus on how they keep Torah law. So they also understand this is necessary. The thing that Karaites war against today is really not the notion of halacha. The thing they war against, as mentioned by Nehemiah Gordon and these guys, is the belief that the whole oral law was given on Mount Sinai. And that is something I war against as well. They completely disregard the notion that there's a Sanhedrin that we have to listen to. And that's really where the laws come from. And I've debated a few Karaites, and I've mentioned this, and they've never had an answer. But what do we do with the rulings of the Sanhedrin? I mean, that's really who the people in the Talmud claim to be. It's only later on, in the times of the Amoraim, that this myth that everything was given on Mount Sinai that was made up. Now, yes, in the Mishnah, there was a notion that some things were given on Mount Sinai, but not everything was given on Mount Sinai. To quote Nehemiah Gordon, Orthodox Jews believe, which is not entirely true, but he teaches that Orthodox Jews believe that the whole Talmud was given on Mount Sinai. That is something that, yes, ignorant Orthodox Jews believe this, not educated, people who actually know how to learn, they don't believe that. Because you'd be going against the statements of the rabbis. The rabbis always make a distinction between what's from the rabbis and what's from the Torah. Why would they make a distinction if it was all given on Mount Sinai? And it doesn't matter. It's because their Torah is a little more sophisticated than the Torah that's being taught on YouTube nowadays. But these guys are never challenged, so.
Right. Thank you for all that. Someone asked, Lisa asked out of the comments there, are women supposed to wear tzitzit?
There's a myth. I don't know if it's true, but they teach that Rashi's daughters even put on tefillin. Regarding tzitziot, nowadays it's already considered beged ish. According to the Torah, it doesn't make a distinction whether it's only men or women who wear it. So some say, because it is a mitzvah that's time-bound, people don't wear tzitziot at nighttime, that women are not obligated to, but it doesn't really violate anything if they choose to. Now, again, nowadays, it's almost considered a man's garment. The whole notion of a talit katan is a new thing. This thing that people wear under their clothing and call that tzitzit is a new thing. This was invented by the Arizal, and you're talking about someone who lived in the 14th or 15th century. The command is to wear it on the four corners of your garment. The question is, if a woman had four corners, was she required to wear it, right? And it seems, according to the statements in the Torah, it seems like they were. I don't bash women who choose to do it nowadays. First of all, no one wears it nowadays in the proper way unless you wear a poncho, and even in that case, they don't wear it. A kapata technically has four corners, but if you look at the kapatas used by Chabad, one of their corners is rounded off. So it wouldn't require tzitzit.
Where would you put the tzitzit on a kapata? I mean, those things will go long down past your ankles. The tzitzit would be like literally dragging on the floor behind you, wouldn't it?
Why not? I mean,
you would allow it to be there? Do that? Okay.
Yeah, it could drag. You can go to the bathroom with a tallis on also. People make up these things that if it's part of your clothing, hypothetically part of your clothing, that were people meant to get naked before they entered a basic kisei? Of course not. It's stupid. I mean, these people don't even think. Because if you walk into a shul, there's like a thing to hang your tallis. And if you walk in with a tallis, people freak out. I'm like, you guys don't know anything. Yeah. It doesn't have that level of kedusha. You're allowed to go to a bathroom with it. So the problem begins when these people start teaching Torah. And they make their students as hysterical as they are. Just funny when I was little. And when you're in kindergarten and little kids are taught to use the bathroom in a public school, some kids are so used to getting naked before they go, I don't know, urinate or something. You would see 8-year-old kids with their shirt off and their pants off, like peeing, just because that's the way they did it at home. I guess that's how it would.
Yeah,
look like.
I mean, it's interesting.
The Seinfeld,
Yeah.
George Costanza, every time he goes to the bathroom, like he has to take his shirt off. You remember that?
I have something that's OCD. I actually, when I go to the bathroom, I actually have to go to the shower. I have to take a shower afterwards.
Get the heck out of here! Really?
I do. Yeah.
That's nutty.
Yeah, it's nutty.
That's nutty.
Let's see. My good friend Saul. It's always good to see him. He tore a ligament, so let's all wish him a fast healing. Saul says, after conversion, are we guilty of previous sins? Must we do enough to tshuva to make up for it, or is it more like a rebirth, a fresh start, or maybe is a little of both? Your thoughts, Rav?
I don't buy that notion. I've heard it before. I don't buy it. Everything we have in the Jewish world, almost everything, is something practical that's been twisted to some mystical perspective. So the understanding is that if you lived in the land of Israel, and it appears like this in the Rambam, that if you lived in the land of Israel and you were convicted for something that a Noahide is not allowed to do, a Noahide is put to death for breaking any one of the 7 laws. For stealing something less than a sheva pruta, less than a Roman coin, he's put to death. If in that instance, before they put you to death, you choose to say, nope, I convert to Judaism, you are allowed to become Jewish and not be put to death. That's completely legal and practical in a society that separates citizens by the laws they choose to keep, like whether you choose to keep Torah or you choose to keep the 7 Noahide laws. When you at least have to choose from. That has become twisted to teach that a Gentile is not liable for the sins he did as a Gentile now that he's become Jewish. That's not what it means, but that's how it's taught. You're a newborn baby. You're not a newborn baby, okay? If you were a rapist, if you were a murderer before you converted, were you telling me God just wipes the slate clean even though you've hurt people? God doesn't forgive you for sins that you commit against other people. He may forgive you for sins that you do against him. This is the whole notion of kol nidre. But kol nidre is not in the Talmud. This is a later custom that crept into the high holiday liturgy. They could be scumbags all year round, and God's going to forgive them on kol nidre for sins that they committed against other people. It doesn't work like that. People don't ask, does this make God look bad? Does it make Torah look bad? Of course it makes Torah look bad if someone who believes that now that they convert, that they have a clean slate and everything they did in the past is a matter of bullcrap. Everything you do in your life always matters. There's some things you're never going to be forgiven for, but you just deal with it. And that's life. Being a mature person means dealing with stuff like that. This whole notion like now I could speak Lashon Hara on Gentiles because I'm a Jew now and I could steal from a Gentile. These people are stupid. They carry God's name in vain here. They make God look ridiculous.
But does it make practical sense to to let some shmendrik, some rapists convert to Judaism? I mean, if he's a rapist, why would you want to convert him to Judaism?
Well, first of all, if he was actually convicted as a rapist, he'd probably be in jail or dead. We're saying, does God wipe the slate clean of things he knows that you did? And
well,
no.
you would say theoretically, if a person's coming to convert, he probably would have. I mean, he's probably a more decent person.
There's a statement in Isaiah that although your sins are red as scarlet, I'll make them white as snow. That doesn't mean that you're forgiven for everything that you did in your past. There is no forgiveness for sins like that. God allows you to exist amongst the Jewish people if you bring certain korbanot every year, where the reason we celebrate Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur is to find out if Israel is allowed to stay in the land another year. That's why we do it. You're never really forgiven for anything you do, okay? And that's something that you guys really have to understand, that we can't walk around doing bad things and thinking that God's going to forgive us because we do tshuva on our deathbed. And this is what many people do. This is why synagogues are full of elderly couples, because they live a crazy existence and now they know they're going to die, so they become religious. I'm happy to see them in the synagogue, but I'm not excited. If you hurt someone, that you make amends, but you can't put that cat back into the bag. That what you did, and that you have to deal with it. And only because some rabbi tells you that to make you feel better, that God has forgiven you. Like, what?
It is what it is.
Yeah, it seems unethical to me. Yeah.
I've had Goyim tell me that kol nidre is very anti-Gentile.
And it is. It is. Well, it's not just anti-Gentile, it's anti-Jew.
That is kind of true. That's
You're
actually
assuming that someone could do something bad to you and God's just going to forgive them? It's like one day of the year? I mean, you could be doing tshuva every day. Like, why just on that day? It's stupid. I mean, Kol Nidre is not part of the actual liturgy. It's not in the Mishnah. It's not in the Talmud. It was made up. I think there was a semblance of it in the time of the Gaonim. It's not obligatory. But nowadays, it's like not eating like chametz on Pesach.